The billionaire returned home and found his two daughters sleeping in the dump. That was the first thing Lucas Hayes saw when his mansion gates opened. Two small bodies curled beside garbage bags, clothes dirty, faces cold, and no adult in sight. His heart stopped. His anger rose fast, sharp, and dangerous. He rushed out of his SUV, shouting their names, shaking as he lifted them from the filthy ground. Mia barely opened her eyes. Lily whispered, "Daddy, we tried, but they didn't let us in." Everyone froze. Lucas looked toward the mansion, toward the people who worked for him, lived off him, obeyed him. No one stepped forward. No one explained why his own daughters were outside like trash. His jaw tightened. His grip around the girls hardened. Something was very, very wrong. And the night was only beginning. Before we go deeper, tell me, which country are you watching from? I want to see where all of you amazing viewers are joining from. Lucas Hayes had lived most of his life in a world built on glass, steel, and silence. Billionaire. Visionary. That's what the headlines called him. But inside the mansion that overlooked half the city, there were no children's drawings on the walls, no tiny shoes by the door, no laughter echoing up the marble staircase. Just polished floors, perfect lighting, and a man who believed success meant never slowing down. Earlier that same morning, Lucas sat in his penthouse office signing a deal worth more than most people would make in a lifetime. His assistant handed him documents, congratulated him, and mentioned, again, that there were several missed personal calls from someone named Rachel Carter. Lucas waved it off. "Handle it later," he said as he always did. "Business first. Feelings later. Family, somewhere after that." But miles away, in a cramped apartment with peeling paint and broken heaters, Rachel Carter, his ex-wife, was holding everything together with her last ounce of strength. She wasn't perfect, but she was present. She worked double shifts at a diner, cleaned offices during the night, and still found time to tuck her daughters into bed with soft stories that covered the harshness of their reality. Mia, 10 years old, understood more than she should. She noticed when Rachel skipped dinner to make sure she and her younger sister ate. She heard Rachel crying in the bathroom when the electricity bill came. She felt the weight of every unpaid notice stuffed under their door. Yet Mia kept her worries quiet because someone had to be the strong one. Lily, only 6, lived in a smaller world, one drawn with crayons and hope. She still believed her dad was a superhero, a billionaire who could fix anything if he only knew what was happening. She kept a folded drawing in her pocket, her, Mia, and Lucas holding hands in front of a house that looked nothing like their apartment. Rachel tried to shield them from the truth, but the truth didn't care. That afternoon, the landlord arrived again, louder this time, angrier, banging on the door until Mia flinched. Rent was overdue and he didn't want excuses. He wanted them out. After he left, Rachel sank onto the floor, covering her face with her hands. The girls watched from the bedroom doorway, and Mia's heart broke in a way words couldn't catch. She whispered to Lily later that night, "Daddy wouldn't let this happen. He just doesn't know." Lily nodded, trusting every word. Mia looked at the window, at the distant glow of the rich neighborhoods across the city. "We'll go to him," she said softly. "He'll help us if he sees us. We'll make him listen." She didn't know how far the mansion was. She didn't know how cold the streets would get after midnight. She didn't know the danger of walking through quiet roads and empty alleys with her little sister holding her hand. She just knew they couldn't stay where they were. Meanwhile, Lucas stood in a ballroom at a charity gala designed to raise awareness for homeless children. Cameras flashed, donors applauded, and Lucas smiled for photos he didn't feel. On the drive home, he loosened his tie and stared out the window, thinking of nothing deeper than tomorrow's meeting. Until his headlights revealed the impossible. 2 little girls, curled beside garbage bags, sleeping in the dump outside his mansion. His daughters. And as Lucas stormed inside with his trembling girls in his arms, one question burned through his chest like fire. Lucas carried Mia and Lily into the mansion with a grip so tight it trembled. His heartbeat was loud enough that Mia, still pressed against his chest, could feel it. The moment he stepped inside, the warm air, the polished floors, and the golden lights of the living room felt painfully out of place, because the girls in his arms were cold, dirty, and shaking. Several staff members appeared from different hallways, stiff and startled. They froze when they saw the billionaire CEO standing there with 2 small children who did not belong to the world of marble and chandeliers. Who threw them out? Lucas's voice cut through the room like a blade. Silence. No one moved. A security guard finally stepped forward, eyes lowered. "Sir, we were told no one was allowed in without approval. The girls said they were your children, but..." "But what?" Lucas snapped. The guard swallowed. "We thought they were confused, or trying to get attention? Lucas took a breath so slow and deep it shook his whole frame. They're 10 and 6 years old. And you thought they were lying? The guard couldn't answer. Lucas turned away, jaw locked so tightly it pulsed. He placed the girls gently on the leather couch. Lily instantly reached for his sleeve, afraid he'd walk away. Daddy, please don't be mad. Her voice was so small it nearly broke him. I'm not mad at you, he whispered, kneeling to look into her trembling eyes. Never at you. But inside he was furious, at the staff, at the system around him, at himself. He grabbed a blanket from the armchair and wrapped Lily first, then Mia, noticing the dirt on their clothes, the small scratches on their hands from climbing the steep road toward the mansion. How long were you out there? Lucas asked. Mia hesitated, biting her lip. A while. They wouldn't let us through the gate. Who wouldn't? She glanced nervously toward the security guard. The man said we weren't allowed to bother you. Lucas stood slowly, turning toward the staff. His voice was cold enough to make everyone step back. All of you, out. Now. They scattered in seconds. When the room emptied, Lucas returned to the couch and sat beside his daughters. Lily curled into him without hesitation. Mia stayed upright, hands folded tightly, trying to act strong. You could have been hurt, Lucas said softly. You should have called me. We did, Mia whispered. Mom tried for weeks. Lucas frowned. I didn't get any calls. Mia lifted her eyes, filled with confusion. Every time we tried, someone said you were too busy. He froze. He had changed numbers twice in the past year. His assistant filtered all incoming private calls. His personal life was handled the same way his meetings were, scheduled, screened, sanitized. His stomach dropped. Tell me everything, he said quietly. Mia explained slowly, how they were being evicted, how Rachel cried when she thought they weren't looking, how they wanted to come to him not to ask for toys or money, but because they were scared. Lucas stared at her and something inside him cracked. He had spent years believing checks made him a good father. That paying for school and health insurance proved love. But Mia's trembling hands, clutching the blanket, told a different story. Your mother didn't send you? He asked. No, Mia said instantly. She didn't even know we left. Lucas closed his eyes. Of course Rachel didn't know. She would never risk their safety like that. He stood up abruptly. I'm going to call your mother. Don't yell at her, Mia whispered. She tried her best. Her voice carried so much quiet truth that Lucas felt ashamed. Before he could respond, he noticed something. Mia's shoes were torn, the soles nearly detached. Lily's pockets were stuffed with the only toys she owned, 2 crayons and a folded drawing of a family that didn't look like theirs anymore. He swallowed the lump in his throat. Let's get you cleaned up, he said, gently brushing a leaf out of Lily's hair. But what about Mommy? Lily asked. We're going to fix everything, he promised. I swear. He wasn't sure what that meant yet. But he knew he had to do something, anything. As he walked toward the kitchen to get them warm food, a loud, frantic knock suddenly echoed through the mansion. Everyone froze again. Lucas stiffened. The girl's eyes widened. The knock came again, harder this time. Lucas took one slow breath and stepped toward the front door. Mia grabbed Lily's hand. Do you think it's... Lucas swung the door open. And a soaked, breathless figure stumbled inside the light. Rachel. Her hair was wet, her clothes clung to her from running in the cold, and her eyes were wild with panic. Where are my daughters? She gasped. Her voice shook the entire room. But Lucas wasn't prepared for the look she gave him next. A look that held fear, anger, and something he hadn't seen in years. A look that promised the night was far from over. And none of them knew what truth was about to come out next. Rachel didn't wait for permission to enter. She stumbled past Lucas, nearly collapsing against the wall as she tried to catch her breath. Her hands were trembling, partly from the cold, partly from fear. Mia? Lily? She called, voice cracking. The girls ran from the living room. Lily reached her first, throwing herself into Rachel's arms. Mia followed slower, guilt weighing down her steps. Rachel knelt on the floor, hugging them tightly, kissing their foreheads, whispering over and over, thank God you're okay. Lucas stood a few steps away, stunned by the sight. She looked fragile and exhausted, but fierce in the way only a mother in panic could be. When Rachel rose to her feet, her eyes met Lucas's, and the warmth she'd shown the girls vanished. What did you do? She demanded. Lucas blinked. What do you mean, what did I do? My daughters walked across half the city to get here. They could have been taken, hurt, lost. Why didn't you answer the phone? Why didn't you? I never got any calls, he cut in. Your messages were blocked without my knowledge. Rachel stared at him, disbelief twisting her expression. You're telling me a billionaire CEO doesn't know how his own phone works? Her voice was sharp, but underneath it trembled real hurt. It wasn't intentional, Lucas said quietly. But it happened. Rachel shook her head, laughing bitterly. You've always had excuses. I didn't throw them out, Lucas shot back. Someone on my staff did. That's what I'm angry about. Rachel stiffened. Staff? Lucas, their children. My children. Your children. Who would do something like that? He didn't have an answer, and that only fueled her anger. The hallway felt too small for both of them. Years of unspoken resentment filled the space between their breaths. How long have you known they were struggling? Lucas asked. Because they told me about the eviction. You think I wanted to tell them? She snapped. You think I wanted them to hear a landlord say we weren't worth anything because I couldn't pay on time? Her voice cracked on the last words. She covered her face for a moment, steadying her shaking breath. When she lowered her hands, her eyes glistened, but she refused to let tears fall in front of him. I was doing everything I could, she whispered. 2 jobs. No sleep. No help. And I didn't want to come running to you after the way you left. Mia looked down, twisting her fingers together. Lucas's throat tightened. He hadn't expected her words to land like a punch. He stepped closer. Rachel, I didn't know. If I had. You would have written a check, she said softly, cutting him off. Because that's what you do, Lucas. You pay your way out of guilt. He flinched. The truth wasn't thrown to hurt him. She said it because she believed it. But before he could respond, Mia stepped between them. Stop, she whispered. Please. Rachel immediately softened, reaching for her daughter's shoulders. Lucas fell silent. Mia, Rachel began, you shouldn't have left the apartment without telling me. I was terrified. I'm sorry, Mia whispered. I just wanted Daddy to help. I thought if he saw us, he'd understand. That sentence struck Lucas harder than any argument could. Seeing them. Understanding them. Something he hadn't done in a long time. Lily tugged on Rachel's sleeve. Mommy, Daddy wasn't mad. He helped us. Rachel's expression shifted, still guarded but slightly shaken. Lucas stepped forward cautiously. Rachel, let's talk. Not yell. We owe them that much. She hesitated. Her eyes dropped to Lily's dirty shoes, Mia's bruised knees, the blankets wrapped around their shoulders. When she finally nodded, it was not for Lucas's sake, but for her daughter's. They moved to the living room. Rachel sat with the girls pressed against her. Lucas sat across from them, shoulders tense. What happened these past months? Lucas asked quietly. Rachel inhaled slowly. I lost one job when I got sick. The other cut my hours. I tried to keep the girls out of it, but things got worse. I called you. A lot. I left messages. Someone always said you were unavailable. After a while, I stopped expecting an answer. Lucas's hands curled into fists. His world, the corporate walls, the assistants, the gatekeepers, had protected him from everything except what mattered most. Rachel continued, voice trembling again. And then the eviction notice came. I tried to hide it. But kids know. They always know. Mia nodded quietly beside her. Lucas remembered the torn shoes. The cold hands. The look of fear when he found them outside. He ran a hand down his face. Rachel, why didn't you knock on my door sooner? Rachel let out a tired breath. Because I didn't want to be seen as a burden. Or another one of your responsibilities you handle with your wallet instead of your heart. Lucas froze. Her words were not spiteful, they were honest. Painfully honest. Lily crawled from Rachel's lap to Lucas's, curling up without asking permission. He instinctively wrapped an arm around her. Rachel watched, a mixture of relief and sadness in her eyes. For the first time in years, they were in the same room, not arguing about lawyers or custody papers, but sitting together because their daughters needed both of them. And something inside Lucas shifted. He wasn't angry at Rachel. He was angry at himself. Before anyone could speak again, Lucas's phone buzzed. His assistant's name lit up the screen. He answered without thinking. What is it? A tense voice replied, Sir, we have a problem. Lucas's eyes narrowed. What now? It's about Rachel's apartment. The landlord is outside throwing everything into the street. People are recording. It's already spreading online. Rachel's hand flew to her mouth. Mia gasped. Lily squeezed Lucas's shirt tighter. And Lucas felt a cold wave rush through him. He stood up slowly. Get the car, he said. I'm going there now. Rachel rose too. I'm coming with you. Lucas nodded once. The girls clung to their coats, fear returning to their faces. And as the family walked toward the door, together for the first time in years, none of them knew what scene waited for them at that broken apartment. But they could all feel it. Something was about to unravel. And the truth waiting at that sidewalk would change everything. Stop for a moment, you watching this right now, does any of this remind you of your own life? Tell me below, and when you're ready, stay with me, let's continue the story. Rachel's old neighborhood felt like a different country compared to Lucas's world. The SUV rolled slowly down the cracked street, past flickering streetlights and boarded windows. People gathered in clusters on the sidewalks, staring at the approaching luxury vehicle like it didn't belong there, and it didn't. As the car stopped, Lucas stepped out first. Then he froze. Rachel's belongings, her entire life, lay scattered across the sidewalk. Clothes, schoolbooks, worn blankets, broken toys. Boxes tipped over, framed photos cracked on the ground. A cheap dresser lay splintered near the curb. A crowd watched with phones raised, whispering as if the scene were a spectacle. Rachel's breath caught painfully in her chest. Oh God, no. She rushed forward, dropping to her knees to gather the girls' things. Her fingers shook as she lifted a stuffed animal out of a muddy puddle. Mia and Lily ran to help, trying to rescue their belongings as fast as they could. Lucas followed them, his jaw tightening with every step. His expensive shoes crunched over broken picture frames. He picked one up, Rachel holding baby Mia in a hospital bed. The glass had shattered across their faces. He swallowed hard. A voice boomed from the doorway. Well, look who finally showed up. The landlord smirked, arms crossed over his chest. The billionaire ex-husband. Rachel shot him a glare. Stop throwing our things. We still have the rest of the day. Not anymore, he cut her off. I changed the locks. You can't do that, she snapped, rising to her feet. He shrugged. Already did. Should have paid your rent on time. Lucas stepped forward, voice low and deadly. How much does she owe? The landlord smirked wider. Now he wants to help. Cute. Name the number, Lucas said. The man leaned against the railing. Why? So you can save face in front of the neighborhood? Too late for that. Everyone knows how she lived. Everyone knows you never showed up. Mia flinched at the words. Lily clutched her teddy tighter. Rachel's cheeks flushed with humiliation. Lucas's hands curled into fists. Give me the amount, he repeated. The landlord shrugged again, deliberately casual. It doesn't matter anymore. I already filed. She's out. A group of onlookers murmured. One woman whispered loudly, imagine being married to a billionaire and ending up like this. Another man laughed under his breath. Guy cares about money more than his daughters. The words punched Lucas harder than any physical blow. Rachel bent down, gathering more belongings. Her eyes shone with tears she refused to let fall. Mia hurried to help her, stuffing books into a bag. Lily tried picking up scattered clothes with her tiny hands. Mommy? Lily's voice trembled. Are we in trouble? Rachel forced a smile. No, baby. We're okay. We're just cleaning up. But she wasn't okay. None of them were. Lucas felt something sharp twist in his chest. Something he hadn't felt in years, pain he couldn't buy his way out of. He turned back to the landlord. If you don't take cash, you'll take a lawyer. Those are the only two options. Oh please, the landlord scoffed. You abandoned them. Now you want to play hero? Spare me. Mia suddenly stood up, fists clenched at her sides. No, she yelled. He didn't abandon us. The landlord raised an eyebrow. He didn't, huh? Then why were you sleeping in the dump outside his mansion? Rachel's breath hitched. Lucas froze. The crowd murmured again. Lily began to cry. Mia's face flushed red with humiliation and anger. We were trying to get to him. We walked all night. Oh? The landlord mocked. Why'd you have to walk? Why didn't he come pick you up? Why didn't he call? Why didn't he show up when your mom begged him for help? The questions landed like blows. Mia looked at Lucas. So did Rachel. And for the first time, Lucas had no defense. No excuses. No business logic to hide behind. Just silence. Painful, suffocating silence. Rachel placed a hand on Mia's shoulder. Sweetheart, don't. But Mia's voice broke through the noise, cracked with hurt. Daddy, where were you? Lucas's chest tightened. Mia, I didn't know. I swear. I didn't know any of this was happening. She shook her head. Tears filled her eyes, slipping down her cheeks. You're a billionaire. You find everything out. You know everything. Except us. The crowd grew quiet. Even the landlord's smirk faded slightly. Lucas stepped closer, voice raw. I'm trying, Mia. Trying now, she whispered. But where were you when Mommy cried in the bathroom? Where were you when the lights got shut off? Where were you when Lily got sick and we didn't have medicine? Where were you when we needed you? Lucas felt every word like a blade. Rachel covered her mouth to steady her breath. Mia's voice cracked again. We didn't come because we wanted your money. She took one shaky breath, looked straight at him, and delivered the punch that shattered the last piece of his pride. We didn't need a billionaire, Dad. We just needed you. The world around them went still. Rachel stood speechless. The landlord lowered his eyes. Lily hugged her sister tightly. Lucas felt the ground shift beneath him. For the first time in his adult life he had no power, no control, no rehearsed words. Just the devastating truth of his daughter's voice. He opened his mouth, just to say something, anything, but before he could speak, a sharp scream rang out from across the street. Everyone turned. A box had toppled over. Something inside it had shattered loudly. People rushed to see what broke. But Lucas didn't look at the box. He looked at his daughters. And he realized, this moment, this exact moment, was about to change everything. And nothing would ever go back to the way it was. For a long moment, Lucas couldn't breathe. Mia's words still echoed in the air, raw and unforgiving. We didn't need a billionaire, we just needed you. He looked at his daughters, Mia trembling but brave, Lily crying into her sister's coat, Rachel kneeling beside them trying to hold their broken world together. Something inside him snapped. Not with anger. With awakening. He finally understood what he had never allowed himself to see. Without another second of hesitation, Lucas stepped toward his daughters. He knelt on the dirty pavement, designer pants and all, right beside them. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Phones stopped recording. Even the landlord paused mid-step. Lucas placed his hands on Mia's shoulders. His voice came out low, shaking. You're right. I wasn't there. I failed you. I failed your mom. And I failed myself. But I swear to you from this moment on, everything changes. Mia's lips parted, unsure whether to believe him. Rachel turned her head slightly as if she heard something new in his voice, something she hadn't heard in years. Then Lucas stood and faced the landlord head-on. His voice, steady now, carried enough force to silence the entire street. You're done here. The landlord scoffed. You can't fire me, I'm not your employee. No, Lucas replied calmly. You're about to be my problem. And trust me, you don't want to be my problem. He pulled out his phone. Lucas, Rachel whispered nervously, don't make a scene. This is a scene, Lucas said without looking away from the landlord. And it's about time I stop letting other people decide what happens to my family. 2 calls later, the tone of the entire street changed. Within minutes, a pair of Lucas's legal advisors arrived. The landlord's smirk faltered as they informed him that eviction laws had been violated, notices handled illegally, and that he could be held liable for damages. The landlord stuttered, backing up. Wait, we can talk. No, Lucas said. My daughters don't belong on the sidewalk. And you don't get to decide where they sleep. The man stumbled away, suddenly meek. But Lucas didn't celebrate. The small victory didn't feel like victory. Not when his daughters were digging through boxes to save the last pieces of their childhood. Not when Rachel's hands shook every time she lifted another shattered frame. Not when Mia still wouldn't look at him. Lucas walked toward the girls. He lifted a wooden box off the ground and opened it carefully. Inside lay a small music box, pink, scratched, old. Lily's favorite. It had cracked during the eviction. When Lily saw it, she cried harder. It broke. Lucas knelt again. We'll fix it, sweetheart. How? She whimpered. It's broken forever. No, Lucas whispered, brushing her hair gently. Nothing is broken forever, not even us. Rachel's eyes welled. She looked away quickly. Lucas stood and took a long breath. Then, get everything you can, he said. We're not staying here. We're going home. Rachel hesitated. Lucas, your mansion isn't. Not the mansion, he cut her off. A real home. For them. For you. For us, whatever that becomes. Rachel froze, stunned. Mia looked at him, searching for any sign of insincerity. This time she found none. Lucas helped gather their belongings. He lifted boxes, carried bags, and even knelt to pick up small toys scattered across the pavement. He didn't act like a billionaire. He didn't act like a CEO. He acted like a father. A few neighbors watched with softened expressions. Not out of curiosity but admiration. As Lucas placed the final box in the SUV, Rachel approached him carefully. "Why now?" she asked quietly. "Why are you doing all this now?" He turned to her slowly. "Because I finally realized. I've been running from the wrong things. I've been afraid of becoming poor again, so I poured everything into building an empire. But while I was protecting myself, I left all of you unprotected." Rachel's breath caught. "And when I saw them," Lucas continued, voice breaking, "sleeping outside my gate, something inside me shattered. I don't get to run anymore." Rachel pressed a hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. Mia and Lily watched their parents in silent hope. Lucas stepped closer. "You don't have to forgive me today. Or tomorrow. Or ever. But let me fix what I destroyed. Let me try." Rachel wiped a tear that escaped. "Lucas, I just want them safe. And they will be," he promised. "From now on." Before she could say another word, a loud crash echoed from the far end of the street. Everyone turned. A group of teenagers had knocked over another one of Rachel's boxes while skateboarding. Items flew across the pavement. One boy tried to grab something from the ground, Lily's cracked music box. Lily screamed, "No, please." Lucas sprinted before anyone else could react. He reached the teenager, snatched the music box back, and glared at him with a warning that needed no words. The boys scattered instantly. Lucas returned to Lily and kneeled, pressing the damaged music box into her hands. "I will fix this," he said. "I promise." Her arms went around his neck. For the first time, she hugged him without hesitation. Rachel's expression softened completely. Mia watched the scene, her chin trembling. She didn't run to him. Not yet. But a small piece of her armor cracked. Lucas lifted Lily into the SUV and held the door for Mia. As Rachel settled beside them, he closed the door gently. Then he walked around to the driver's seat, something he never did. He turned the key, hands steady, determination flooding through him. As the SUV pulled away, leaving behind the broken apartment and shattered memories, Rachel looked at him from the passenger seat. "What now?" Lucas kept his eyes on the road. "Now," he said, "I undo every mistake I ever made." But before they reached even 3 blocks, Lucas's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen. His assistant's voice came through, uneasy. "Sir, something happened at your mansion. You need to come back immediately." Lucas's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Rachel's head snapped toward him. Mia and Lily clung to each other in the back seat. And for the second time that night, a cold silence filled the car. Whatever waited for them at the mansion was about to push this night into a place none of them could imagine. And the real transformation hadn't even begun yet. The next morning arrived softer than the night before, quiet sunlight pushing through thin clouds, warming the windows of a house that finally felt like it could breathe again. Lucas had barely slept, not because of work but because he kept checking on the girls. Every hour he opened the door just to make sure they were still there, sleeping safely, without fear, without cold. He watched Mia curled protectively around Lily, the way big sisters do when life forces them to grow up early. It broke him gently, and healed something in him at the same time. Rachel stepped into the hallway and found him standing there again, leaning against the wall, watching the girls sleep like he was guarding a treasure. "You can come in," she whispered. He nodded and walked inside. Lily stirred and rolled toward the warm sunlight. Mia blinked awake and rubbed her eyes.